Thank you. This is very kind of you. We really need this.
Please, take it. It's the least I can do to help.
She lost her husband too soon, left with twins and a broken heart. But instead of showing her struggles, this widow made the world believe she was rich, all for the sake of finding a father for her children. What happened next shocked everyone. The widow carefully dressed herself in borrowed jewelry and second-hand designer clothes, pretending to be someone she was not. She attended high-class events with confidence, introducing herself as if she belonged among the wealthy. Many men admired her beauty and charm, never suspecting the truth behind her graceful smile. Her little twins believed their mother was unstoppable, always strong and shining like a star in their eyes. But behind closed doors, the reality was very different. At night, she sat by a dim lamp, working tirelessly as a seamstress just to put food on the table. The sound of the sewing machine was her lullaby, and the quiet tears she shed were hidden from everyone. Her maid, who had served the family for years, silently watched this secret double life unfold. She saw the courage of a woman who pretended to be rich, only for the sake of her children. Each day, the widow carried the weight of both hope and fear. And though the world saw glamour, only the maid knew the truth of her struggle and sacrifice. One evening, during a dinner with a wealthy suitor, the maid accidentally revealed the truth. The widow was not rich at all. Everyone expected the suitor to walk away in anger. But instead, something unexpected happened. The man revealed he too came from poverty and had only recently built his success. The room went silent, heavy with tension, as though the air itself had frozen in place. The widow's secret had been laid bare, her carefully woven disguise shattered in front of the very man she had hoped would accept her. She could feel her hands trembling as she clutched the edge of her chair, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum of doom. Would he reject her for the lies she had told? Would he walk away in disgust, never to look at her again? Her mind filled with fear, racing through every possible outcome, every cruel word she had ever heard from those who mocked her for being a struggling widow. She had only wanted one thing, to protect her twins, to find them the father they deserved. But now it seemed that even this dream was about to collapse before her very eyes. The maid, standing quietly in the corner, held her breath. For years, she had watched the widow sacrifice everything, pretending to be rich while secretly stitching clothes under candlelight, fighting each day to feed her children. She knew how much this moment meant, how fragile the widow's hope truly was. And now the maid felt guilt pressing down on her chest. Her slip of the tongue had exposed everything. The years of deception and the truth twins, behind, too young to understand the weight of the silent smile, clung to each other. She could take back her eyes darting between their mother and the man. They didn't know what would happen next, but they could feel the fear in their mother's lowered eyes, the way her shoulders sagged under invisible burdens. Their innocent hearts only knew one thing: they didn't want to see their mother cry again. The widow lowered her gaze, unable to look at him any longer. She was ready to lose everything, to see his face harden in anger, to hear the words she dreaded most: "You lied. You are not worthy." She braced herself for rejection, telling herself that she would survive, as she always had, for her children. Yet deep inside, her heart shattered at the thought that perhaps, just this once, she had let herself hope too much. But then came the unexpected. The man, instead of rising in fury or leaving in silence, slowly stood up from his chair. His expression was unreadable, and for a moment the widow feared the worst. The maid's hands tightened in prayer. The twins held onto each other even tighter, and the room seemed to wait for his judgment. Then, with a steady voice that carried warmth instead of anger, he spoke. "Your love for your children is richer than any fortune. That's all I ever wanted to see." The words struck like lightning, but not with destruction, with illumination. The widow's head snapped up, her tear-filled eyes widening in disbelief. She searched his face for mockery, for pity, for anything that might reveal this was a cruel joke. But instead, she saw only sincerity, compassion, and an understanding that went deeper than she had ever imagined. In that moment, the heavy chains of fear fell away. Her tears flowed freely, not of shame but of relief, of gratitude, of love. The maid gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth, unable to believe what she had just witnessed. The twins broke free from their frozen state and rushed into their mother's arms, wrapping themselves around her tightly, as though they too understood the miracle that had just unfolded. The man stepped closer, his voice gentle yet strong, and said again, "You don't need riches to be worthy. You already gave the most precious gift, a mother's love, and that is enough." His words wrapped around her like a shield, protecting her from years of judgment and struggle, affirming her worth, not as a pretender but as a woman who had fought bravely for her children. The widow smiled through her tears, finally able to breathe, finally free from the mask she had worn for so long. She no longer needed to pretend, no longer needed to hide. She was seen, she was valued, and she was accepted. And in that acceptance, her children found not just a father figure, but a promise of a brighter tomorrow. The silence of the room transformed into something new, not heavy with fear, but full of hope, full of love. And as the maid wiped away her own tears, she whispered to herself that she had just witnessed the truest kind of wealth, one that could never be measured in money or gold. Tears filled her eyes, streaming down like emotions long buried, finally breaking free. For years, the widow had hidden behind a mask, pretending to be someone she was not, carrying the burden of lies to protect her children. But now, in this single moment, all those walls collapsed. For the first time since her husband's death, she no longer had to act rich or flawless. She was accepted for who she truly was, a strong, loving mother who had given everything for her twins. The children, sensing the change, rushed into her arms with innocent joy. Their little hands clung tightly to her dress, their faces buried against her, as if to assure her she was never alone. They didn't understand the sacrifices or the lies, but they knew one truth: the mother was safe, she was loved, and she didn't have to fight alone anymore. Their laughter, mixed with tears, silenced every fear that had once haunted her. The maid, who had quietly stood by her side through years of hardship, now smiled through her tears. She had seen the widow working through sleepless nights, sewing under candlelight, shedding silent sobs behind closed doors. She had feared that exposing the truth would ruin everything, but instead she saw something greater than wealth or lies. She saw love winning. She saw honesty shining brighter than borrowed jewels. The man, whose judgment she had dreaded, looked at her with respect instead of anger. His words echoed, "Your love for your children is richer than any fortune." That single sentence broke her chains of shame, giving her the freedom to breathe again. He stepped forward, not to evaluate her status, but to honor her courage and her heart. The silence of the room turned into warmth. For the first time, the widow realized that true wealth was never in gold, jewels, or appearances. It was in love, honesty, and acceptance. She hugged her twins closer. The maid placed a hand over her heart, and the man stood with quiet dignity. Her story ended not in riches or pretense, but in something far greater: freedom, truth, and the purest treasure of all, love.